Hi, welcome to Reading Greek Tragedy Online. I'm Joel Christensen from Brandeis University, and I'm here with the Cosmos Society Center for Atlantic Studies and Out of Chaos Theater to bring you Tabatha Gayle's version of the Danaids. It's a fascinating story. It's one that's rarely told. So this is sort of the debut of this version of it. And we have Charlotte Lottie Parkyn here to help us think a little bit about the myth behind the play and the performance and to help react to this debut. So Charlotte, the Danaids aren't exactly a household name when it comes to myths. If our audience is coming to this not quite sure who they are, what do they need to know to see what's going on with this performance?
Well, I have to say, thank you very much for having me today, because this is such an amazing production. And like you say, it doesn't get that much airtime. And if you are a Greek theatre person, you probably don't know much about it. And it's a shame, because in antiquity, it was well known. So what we do have of this kind of tetralogy is the Supplicants, and most people know that production. It's not the most engaging production, and a lot of people will rather go to a Medea or the Oresteia if they wanted something a little bit more with guts and interest. The Supplicants can be seen as a little bit boring, but that's because it's not normally put into context with its wider trilogy or tetralogy, because we just don't have the rest of the plays. We only have fragments, and it's really interesting because depending on your point of view, depending on kind of what version of academia you subscribe to, depends on where you think the Supplicants came in the trilogy. And we now know kind of it was like Aeschylus's kind of version of this myth, that the Supplicants, which you've done already on your show, kind of sets up that scene of a group of women, 50 sisters, who arrive in Argos, claiming kind of asylum, and they come with their father, and they are pleading with the people of Argos to help save them, because they're on the run from their 50 cousins from Egypt, and they are being forced into marriage. And from the fragments that we have and the versions of the myth we have, we can like ascertain there's like 4 kind of key things that happen in every version of the myth. So therefore we can assume would have happened in Aeschylus's version. So the first one would have been that they all came from Egypt originally. You have Egyptus, who is the father of the boys, the men, the 50 men. You have Danaus, who is the father of the 50 women. And they get to Argos. There is some sort of battle eventually, which we assume took place after the Supplicants play. That's the one that survives. And eventually they come to an understanding that they have to get married on the night. The 50 women have to get married to their 50 male cousins to kind of secure this kind of peace treaty, effectively. Little do the men know, but the women have been instructed by their father to kill their husbands on their wedding night, which is always a bit shocking. And you can imagine that didn't go down too well. So you have 49 of them committing this crime of luring their husbands into the wedding chamber, the marriage chamber, and killing them. But one decides that she does not want to kill her husband, and she's fallen in love with him, and she spares him. And it's really interesting because we're not too sure what happens at the very end. We kind of think there might be a trial where the woman called Hypermnestra, she would have been put on trial by her sisters, saying, look, she didn't belong to the sisterly pact and she didn't kill her husband. And then she gets acquitted, maybe a bit like Orestes does at the end of the Oresteia. Or it could be that the women all get punished anyway by God. We just don't really know what happens at the end. But it's a really fascinating production, and I'm really grateful that you're doing it, because there's just so many different interpretations and ways it could go. And it's really exciting to see something like a group of women who have kind of take control of their lives, yes, in a murderous way. It's very interesting once you put it into context with the Supplicants and kind of have this bookend of the mythology.
And I think what's fascinating about the story is it's very different from the motif that most modern audiences may be familiar with, which is the punishment of the Danaids in the underworld, right? Which is, it's fascinating that Aeschylus and others put so much time into thinking about their experiences, when what we've received from antiquity is this emphasis on they're going to be eternally punished for killing their husbands. And, not to get serious before we get to the play, but the themes in it are so important because it's about sort of immigration. It's about women's agency over their lives. It's about the violence men commit to maintain that. It's about politics, and it's about basically valuing what a person is. And so I think, for better or for worse, Tabatha has brought us a play at a time when all of these subjects are current. So Charlotte,
Definitely.
thank you for that overview. It was perfect, and you weren't even reading for it. And what we'll do today, it's the afternoon in the US. We're going to have matinee style. We'll do half the play, have a brief intermission, and Charlotte and I will respond, and then we'll see the rest of it. So without any further delay, the Danaids, directed and conceived by Tabatha Gayle.
Zeus, suppliant Lord, turn your eyes kindly toward us, travelers who raised sail where the Nile slides through rippling sands to the sea. We fled your land, the sun-stunned pastures that stretched to Syria, not because our townsmen banished us for the stain of bloodshed.
No, we flee by choice, escaping men and chains we detest. Unholy marriage to Aegyptus' sons, our kinsmen. Danas, our father and the leader of our rebellion, chose to play this pawn as best among sorrows. So we skimmed the salt-rolling sea and reached harbor here in Argos. We are Argive. We boast from birth the fly-mated heifer whose womb the touch and breath of Zeus filled. Io. What land would receive us more gently armed, as we are only with suppliants' weapons, these olive branches tufted with wool? City, earth, trembling waters, gods of sky and soil-dwelling spirits whose home and honor lie deep, receive us. The men, Aegyptus' brawling swarm, destroy them, hurl their proud ship back onto the breakers before 1 foot fouls this march. Destroy them, rain, heavy gales pound, hurricanes lash with lightning, thunder shake them, seas swell, crush and drag them to death. Destroy them before they mount, justice forbid, beds they have no right to rape their cousins.
Gods of my race, you birth god, you hear me. Look where justice lies. Do not waste my youth on what must never be. Hate rude force and be just to marriage. One altar shelters even the war-worn. Let Zeus see men's insolence swell, the stalk unfurling, wild, fresh tendrils to entwine us, flowering with wanton wicked thoughts, frenzied with desire. Lust goads them to ruin, folly traps the fool.
Oars and a rope-rigged shelter against the sea sped us stormless, for the winds were kind. So far I find no fault. And still I pray, all-seeing Father, grant us gracious issue. Help us, the brood of a mother you hallowed, escape the beds of men.
Oh, flee, untamed, unwed, pure maiden, daughter of Zeus. will as I will. Guard of the gate to the hallowed shrine, guard me with all your strength. Unbroken maid, keep me unbroken. Ward off my pursuer. If not, if sky gods spurn our sun-black tribe, we must turn to the god who dwells in earth and welcomes wanderers, Zeus of the dead. We must turn these sacred fillets to nooses.
Be prudent. A prudent captain steered you here, your trusty old father, and his advice will serve on land too. Write it in your hearts.
I see dust rising, the voiceless herald of a marching army. The wine of the axle trees spinning in their sockets breaks the silence. Now I can make out troops with bright shields and bristling spears, horses and curved chariots. Likely the country's leaders, learning from scouts that we are here, have come to see for themselves.
But will they approach in peace or wedded in savage anger? Better in any case to sit near the gods assembled on this hill. An altar is stronger than any tower, a shelter no man can penetrate.
Come quickly, holding the white crowned branches, emblems of Zeus who shows pity reverently in your left hands. You must answer the strangers as strangers should, in piteous voices filled with sorrow and need. Say plainly that this exile is not stained by blood, but strike all boldness from your words, and all immodesty from your eyes. Look downcast and gentle. Speak only when spoken to, but then don't be slow in reply.
People here will be ready to take offense.
You are refugees and in need. Remember to be submissive.
Proud speech is not for the weak.
Come, no more delay. Turn plans into deeds.
Foreigners, where are you from? I greet a gathering splendid in robes and headdresses such as no Argive wears, or any woman of Greece. And your daring astounds me, seeing you have come without criers to announce you, or patrons to prepare your way. Still, you have set branches before the gods assembled here in the manner of suppliants seeking refuge. That is all a Greek can be sure of. For the rest, though I might guess, your own voices will answer.
What you say about our appearance is true.
But how should we address you?
Simply sir, or reverend priest of the shrine, or royal highness.
Address me with trust and assurance. I am Pelasgus, son of Pelacthon, child of earth, and I rule this land. My people, called Pelasgoi after their king, work the soil here and reap its bounty. All the lands that stretch along the sacred river Strymon toward the sunset belong to me. I rule the north beyond what I can see, past Mount Pindos to the land of the wild Paeonians, and as far as Parabia and Dodana's ridge, where the oaks of Zeus quiver out their oracles. Then the sea holds me back. I rule whatever lies within these bounds. You've heard my land and lineage, now tell me yours. Be brief, we're not fond of idle talk.
Briefly then, and clearly, we are Argive. We descend from the cow blessed with child, a proud claim, and our story will prove it true.
Strangers, your tale beggars belief. How can you be Argive? To me, you look like Libyan women, not of our native stock, or maybe spawn of the fertile Nile. Cypriot craftsmen stamp their coins with images like yours. You might be nomads, but tell me your story. I want to learn how you claim the descent from an Argive line.
You know that here in Argos long ago, Io kept the keys of Hera's house?
Indeed she did. Everyone knows that story.
Do they also tell that Zeus made love to her?
Yes, but could not hide his embraces from Hera.
So there was a strife in heaven. How did it end?
Our goddess transformed a woman into a cow.
And Zeus still pursued this horned creature?
They say he took the form of a bull in rut.
How did his strong-willed queen answer that?
She said a watchman, all eyes upon the cow.
Who was this all-seeing herder of one heifer?
Argos, son of earth. Hermes killed him.
How else did Hera harass the poor cow?
She sent a tormenting, cow-driving gadfly.
The goat. That is the name the Niles people give him.
And he drove Io from home on a zigzag track.
Everything you say confirms our story.
To Canopus arid as far as Memphis.
Where the touch of Zeus's hand planted the seed.
Who then claims to be the calf of Zeus's cow?
A Paphos, named for the prize Zeus seized.
And Epaphras' child?
It's called Libya because she harvested the bounty of Earth's greatest river.
What offshoot of hers do you still have to name?
Belos. He had 2 sons.
Tell me
One
his
is
name.
our father,
His name?
Danaus. He has a brother with 50 sons.
The brother's name. Surely you won't withhold that.
Egyptus. Now you know your suppliants' descent from ancient times. We are Argives. You owe us protection.
It seems you do have an ancient claim on Argos. But what drove you to flee from the house of your fathers? What storms of fortune carried you away?
Lord of the Pelasgoi, trouble changes its colors ceaselessly. Misfortunes are not of a feather. Who could have guessed that exile would cast us ashore at Argos, fleeing the advances of our cousins out of hatred for the marriage bed?
What grace do your suppliant branches, fresh cut and wreathed in white, claim from this assembly of gods?
Not to be the slaves to the sons of Egyptus.
Because you hate them, or because it would be unlawful?
Would a woman scorn a master she loved?
Then what am I, as a righteous man, to do?
The sons of Egyptus will claim us. Don't hand us over.
A heavy burden. It will mean a dangerous war.
Justice shields the man who fights for her.
If she shared the struggle from the start.
Son of Pelasgoi, hear me with a kind heart. Lord of the Pelasgoi, look on your suppliant, this exile, a heifer trapped by wolves on a steep crag, trusting still in her herdsman's strength, bleating for his help.
I see them nodding, this company of gods assembled in the shade of your fresh-cut branches. But may the cause of these strangers, our kin, not bring us disaster, not bring war without warning to a city caught unprepared. Of such things we have no need. This is not my hearth where you sit. If the whole community risks infection, the people must find a cure together. I can promise nothing until I share the counsel of all my citizens.
You are the citizens. You are the state. A king fears no judgment. Your nod is vote enough to rule this altar, this common hearth. Your throne and your scepter alone command in every need. Beware defilement.
Defilement be with my enemies. But how can I help you without terrible harm? And if I should refuse to honor your prayers, no one would call that gracious or wise either. I'm at wit's end, fearing to act or not to act and take what chance may send.
Look up to him who watches from the heights, patrons of all who crouch at neighbors' hearths, waiting in vain for justice. The wrath of Zeus, Lord of suppliants, will not be moved by the tears and groans of those it ravages.
But if the son of Egyptus claim to rule you as next of kin in accord with the law of your land, how can I oppose them? You must show that those same laws give them no power at all over your lives.
May I never fall into a man's hand under men's power. My defense from this marriage I loathe is escape. I will find my own cure under the stars.
Make justice your ally, my lord. Choose to honor the gods.
This is no easy judgment. Do not ask me to judge. I've said it before. Although the power is mine, I will not act without the people. I will not have them say, you honored strangers and destroyed your land.
Zeus, our bloodkin, your bloodkin, surveys all this. A balance poised in his impartial hand. The injustice of the wicked he heaps on one scale. On the other, the holy deeds of the righteous. How can justice bring pain?
We must search deep for a thought that can save us. For an eye, clear-sighted and unblurred, to descend like a diver combing the seafloor and surface again unharmed with an outcome free of disaster for the state and also for myself. We don't want war to plunder here. We don't want to invite vengeance. Destroyer God who never sets his victims free, even in Hades, to settle on our house for having surrendered you to foes as you sat in the seats of the gods. We must search for a thought that can save us.
Think of justice, think of reverence. Be our patron, our protector. Do not betray us, exiles driven far from home, pursued by violence that the gods despise.
You hold all power here. Will you watch me seized from this altar, this seat of so many gods? No, men's violence and its outrage. Beware the anger to come. Can you bear to watch suppliants dragged from the gods' images by our headbands like horses, rough hands grasping at our fine-spun robes?
Know that your children and your whole house, whatever choice you make, will reap reward or pay back in kind. Think, the rule of Zeus is just.
I've thought, and I'm run aground on necessity's steep shoals. Like a ship with bolts fastened tight, gripped by ropes and winches, I'm being dragged to war with these or those. Nowhere is there a harbor free from pain. If a house is plundered, Zeus the enricher may send new wealth for old, a shipload, more by far than what was lost. If the tongue shoots its arrows amiss, its barbs of bitter anger, speech may still heal speech. But to keep from shedding kindred blood, we have mighty need of sacrifices. Many victims must fall to many gods to ward off ruin. Yes, I shrink from this struggle. Better to be ignorant of evil than to be an expert. Yet may all be well, despite my judgment.
Hear the last of many righteous pleas.
Speak, you may be certain I shall hear.
I have belts and sashes to tie my robes.
Such things are suited to women. What of it?
Well, you see, they give me a fine device.
What kind of talk is this? Come, speak plainly.
If you fail to make us a firm promise,
how will your devices of sashes serve?
To adorn these images with strange new offerings.
This is a riddle. Tell me what you mean.
We mean to hang ourselves from these gods, right now.
The words I hear are whip strokes to my heart.
Then you understand. I have opened your eyes and you see.
Yes. See troubles to wrestle wherever I turn, a flood of evils churning like a river that sweeps me toward a bottomless sea of destruction, treacherous to cross and with no haven from harm. If I do not settle your claim in full, you threaten defilement that cannot be overtopped. But if I take my stand before the walls and fight Aegyptus' sons, the issue will be bought with a bitter cost indeed, men's blood staining the plains for women's sake. Yet the wrath of Zeus, Lord of Suppliants, commands our awe and reverence. His fear is the highest. Take these boughs and go to other altars of our gods. Let all the citizens see a sign that you come as suppliants and not take me to task, quick as they are to blame their leaders. This sight may even stir pity and dispose some to despise the violence of the men. The people will favor you in this extremity, for everyone grants goodwill to the weak.
Lord of lords, blessed beyond all blessing, blissful Zeus, yours is the power in perfect fulfillment.
Hear me. If you hate the violence of men, keep your kin safe from outrage, break calamity's black oar in the dark sea swell.
Look with kindness on women of a glorious line. Renew the gentle tale of love for Io, whom your touch once made mother to us all. Remember your long wooing. We claim you as our father and this land as our home.
Dear old man, best herald of my hopes.
Plus, what was the final decision? How did the majority rule in the show of hands?
Oh, it was a sight to make my old heart young again. The air bristling with hands raised unstintingly, without a moment's doubt, as the Argives decreed that you may settle here in freedom, safe from seizure and assured of protection. No one, native or foreign, shall drag you off. But if enemies try force, the price to any citizen who refuses aid is loss of rights and exile. King Pelasgus won the case with a warning not to fatten the wrath of Zeus, Lord of Suppliants. Twofold defilement, he said, arising alike from claims of natives and strangers, would wander the state, grazing unchecked, insatiable for suffering. The people of Argos heard and stretched their hands high even before the vote was called. Skillful turns of speech persuaded them, but Zeus put his seal on the outcome too.
Oh, let us pray for Argos, returning good for good. May Zeus, Lord of guests and strangers, guide blessings from the mouths of guests, faultless to their goal.
Okay.
See, Fiona, there are men who are kind and decent.
Not so kind and decent if he's not threatened with some kind of scandal of dead women hanging off his house.
I liked him. You should give a person the benefit of the doubt.
You think you found this man's good side? Men don't have a good side.
I've known men who have a good side, Fiona.
I've known men you could sit with after dinner in front of the fireplace and just listen to the way he speaks and hear the gentleness in his way of speaking and the carefulness.
I've known men who think, oh, a woman, I'd like to take care of her, and not in any way that he thinks he is superior and has control, but in the way he understands a woman is a different sort of person and precious because of that. Vulnerable in certain ways because of that, in ways that he isn't, although he might be vulnerable in other ways because of his stuff that he has, and that he treasures what a woman has and thinks, oh, if only I could be close to her and feel what she feels and see the world as she sees it, how much richer my life would be. And so because of that, he thinks, oh, a woman, I can really respect her and love her for who she really is.
I know a man who will say, I want to take care of you, because he means he wants to use you for a while. And while he's using you, so you don't notice what he's doing, he'll take care of you as if you were a new car before he decides to trade you in.
I've known men like that too. But not all men are necessarily the same. Sometimes you can hear the whole man just in his voice, how deep it is, or how frightened, where it stops to think, and how complex and supple and sure it is.
You can hear the strength in it, and you can know that you're safe.
The male is a biological accident, an incomplete female, the product of a damaged gene, a half-dead lump of flesh trapped in a twilight zone somewhere between apes and humans, always looking obsessively for some woman.
That's maybe a little bit
because he thinks if he can make some connection with a woman, that will make him a whole human being. But it won't. It never will.
I know how you feel, Fiona.
I've felt that way myself sometimes.
Still, this man who doesn't even know us, who owes us nothing, doesn't know what he risks by offering us a place to stay. There are places in the world where refugees are taken in out of generosity, and often these are men who do the taking in, because people have the capacity for goodness. And there could be a world where people care for one another, where men are good to women, and there's not a men's history and a separate women's history, but a human history, where we are all together and support one another, nurture one another, honor one another's differences, and learn to live together in common justice, reconciling our differences in peaceful conversation, reaching out with goodwill towards one another, not trying to obliterate those who are not as we are, but learning to understand, learning to take deep pleasure in the enormous variety of creatures.
Stand back! Stand back! Stand away from the helicopter!
Yeah, they're here.
Oh, Nikos, you found us.
Lydia, why'd you run away from us?
What?
We were waiting for you at the church.
You can't force us to marry you, Nikos.
Force you? We thought you were coming.
Why should we come?
Because we were getting married?
We never agreed to marry you.
If there was some misunderstanding, then
We have a deal.
We never had a deal with you, Constantine.
Your father made a deal with my father. Before you were born, Fiona, you are engaged to me, and I am going to marry you.
This is the Dark Ages.
like I said, if there's some misunderstanding, then maybe we can.
There was no
talk this-
misunderstanding. We are not marrying you.
There's a contract involved here.
Come down here and I'll show you a contract.
I am parking the helicopter.
My brothers and I, we've counted on this our whole lives. And plus, I thought it'd be kind of neat, 50 brides, 50 grooms, a real event.
And we never agreed to release you from your promise?
Why not?
Because I am a traditional person, Fiona. I want a traditional marriage, a traditional wife. That's the way it is.
It's a different world now, Constantine. You can't just marry someone against their will because there's been some kind of family understanding.
You think we live in a world nowadays where you can throw out a promise just because you don't feel like keeping it? Just because drugs are rife, gambling is legal, medicine is euthanasia, pornography is piped into everyone's home on the internet. Now you think you can do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it, no matter what the law might say? I don't accept that. Sometimes I like to lie down at night with my arms around someone and know she is there for me. Know that this gives her pleasure. My arms around her, her back to me, my stomach pressed against her back, my face buried in her hair, one hand on her stomach, feeling at peace. That's my plan. To have that, I'll have my bride. If I have to have her arms tied behind her back and dragged to me, I'll have her back. What is it you women want? You want to be strung up with hoods and gags and blindfolds, stretched out on a board with weights on your chest? You want me to sew your legs to the bed and pour gasoline on you and light you on fire? Is that what I have to do to keep you?
Lydia, isn't this your wedding dress?
Yes.
It seems you were ready to get married.
The future is going to happen, Fiona, whether you like it or not. You say you don't want to be taken against your will. People are taken against their will every day. Do you want tomorrow to come? Do you want to live in the future? Never mind. You can't stop the clock. Tomorrow will take today by force, whether you like it or not. Time itself is an act of rape. Life is rape. No one has to be born. No one has to die. We are all taken by force all the time. You make the best of it. You do what you have to do.
We have a friend here, Constantine, and he is going to take care of us.
I'm an American now, Olympia. I'm not afraid of your friend. Do you watch television? Do you see what happens when Americans want something?
Excuse me. I am Piero. This is my home, and you would be the cousins of these young women?
We're engaged to be married.
I understand the women are no longer interested.
We are not here to negotiate.
Well, that's a forthright position. I like to know where I stand when I deal with a man. But before we talk, let me welcome you properly. Why don't you come in the house with me? We'll have a glass of something. What's your favorite cigar? You like a Cuban? A Vegas Robina? Partagas? Is it
Nikos.
Nikos? And that is Constantine. Nikos.
Constantine.
Oh, yeah, come with me. We'll have a glass of something. Have a smoke. Get things sorted out.
I'd like that.
Excuse us, ladies. Come with me.
Bastard, what did I tell you?
He's going to solve it peacefully.
Giving in, don't you get it? These men and their deals.
Right. You could be right.
I don't think he's going to do that.
Sometimes a person can talk a good game, but when push comes to shove, they're weak right to the core.
Except for Constantine.
And except for me, I haven't given in either. This game isn't over till someone lies on the ground with flesh pulled off their bones. You think that you can do whatever you want with me? Think again. You think I'm so delicate? You think you have to care for me? You think you can throw me to the ground? You think I'll break? You think I can't get up again? You think I can't get up again? You think I need a man to save my life? Who needs a man? Who needs a man? I can make it on my own. I am an autonomous person. I am an independent person. I can do what I want. And I can be who I am.
I can. I really can. I just want a man who will let me. I don't think it's wrong to lie in the bath and curl my hair and paint my nails, to like my clothes and think they're sexy and wear short skirts that blow up in the wind. I don't think it's wrong for a man to love me, to like to touch me and listen to me and talk to me and write me notes and give me flowers, because I like men. I like men, and I like to be submissive.
Why can't a man
be more like
a woman?
Plain spoken and forthright, honest and clear, able to process, to deal with his feelings, to speak from the heart, to say what he means. Because if he can, I don't have a grudge or something against him we couldn't work out. I think it's wrong to make sweeping judgments right off a whole sex the way men do to women. We could talk to each other, person to person, get along with each other. Then we could go deep to what a man or woman really can be. Deep down to the mysteries of being alive, of knowing ourselves, to know what it is to live a life on earth.
I knew a man so kind and generous once. I was a girl. I was on a train going to Thessaly, and he said, "I'm going to marry you." He asked how far I was going. "To Rome," I said. No, he said, "You can't get off so soon. You need to go with me to Bologna." He wouldn't hear of my getting off in Rome, or he would get off too and meet my family. He gave me a pocket watch and a silk scarf and a little statue of a saint he had picked up in Morocco. He quoted Dante to me, and he sang bits of Verdi and Puccini. He was trying everything he knew to make me laugh and enjoy myself. But finally, he seemed so insistent that I started to get scared of him. He never touched me, but he made me promise finally that I would come to Bologna in 2 weeks' time after I'd seen my family. I promised him. I promised him because I thought he might not let me get off the train unless I promised. He gave me his address, which of course I threw away, and I gave a false address to him. And when I got off the train, I saw him weeping. And I've often thought, well, maybe he really did love me. Maybe that was my chance. And I ran away from it because I didn't know it at the time.
I think, for me, there's nothing quite like it when you know a person is attracted to you and you look into his eyes and see your own reflection through the tears of joy in his eyes, as you've always wanted to see yourself and never have since you were a child, just sharing the daily things with another person, knowing you can count on him. And I know that he loves me all the time, hugging me all day and treating me as though I were precious.
You are a twit.
I'm not.
I'll tell you something, Olympia. You're the kind of person who ends up in the bottom of a river somewhere with your underpants over your head. I am trying to save your neck and you don't even get it.
What did I even say wrong?
Do you think I like feeling this way? Do you think it feels good to feel bad all the time? Do you think I wouldn't rather just be a nice, happy, well-adjusted seeming person who can just take it as it comes and like it? But I can't just not be honest. Do you think that makes me happy? To spend my whole life on Earth, the only life I'm going to have, feeling angry.
Fiona.
Why don't we leave these two alone?
I'm sorry for the way Constantine seemed a little rude. I shouldn't put it all on him. I'm sorry for the way that we've behaved.
Thank you for saying so, Nikos.
See, I've always liked you, Lydia. Seeing you with your sisters sometimes in the summers when our families would get together at the beach, I thought you were fun and funny and really good at volleyball.
Volleyball?
Which I thought showed that you had, well, a natural grace and beauty and a lot of energy.
Oh.
And it's not that I fell in love with you at the time or that I've been like a stalker in the background all of these years.
No, I never.
Really, over the years, I've thought back from time to time just how good it felt to be around you. And so I thought, well, maybe this is an okay way to have a marriage. To start out, not in a romantic way, but as a friendship. Because I admire you. And I thought perhaps it might grow into something deeper and longer lasting. But maybe this isn't quite the thing that you want. Really, I don't want to force myself on you. You should be free to choose. I mean, obviously. Although I think that I should say that what began as a friendship for me and a sort of distant, even inattentive regard has grown into a passion already. And I don't know how or when or where it started, but somehow the more I felt this admiration and, well, pleasure in you, seeing you become the person that you are. I think a thoughtful person and smart, and it seems to me funny and warm.
Funny?
and passionate. I mean, about the things that I hear you talk about at school, like playing piano or seeing a movie at it. I saw you one night at a cafe down by the harbor drinking almond nectar, and I saw happiness made you raucous, and I myself, I don't want a love that is cool or distant, and I want a love really that consumes me, that consumes my whole life.
Your whole life?
And the longer the sense of you has lived with me, the more it has grown into this longing for you. And so I wish that you'd consider, maybe not a marriage, because it's true, you hardly know me, but a kind of a courtship.
A courtship?
Or I don't know, maybe you'd go sailing with me, watch a movie.
Gee, Nikos, you seem to talk a lot.
Yeah, I talk too much. Sorry.
Sometimes it seems to me that, men get all caught up in what they're doing, and they forget to take a moment and look around, see what effect they're having on people.
That's true.
They get on a roll.
I do that sometimes. I wish I didn't, but I get started on a sentence, and that leads to another sentence. And then first thing I know, I'm just trying to work it through, the logic of it, and follow it through to the end. Because I think if I stop, or if I don't get through to the end before someone interrupts me, then they won't understand what I'm saying. And what I'm saying isn't necessarily wrong. I mean, it might be, but not necessarily. And if it is, I'd be glad to be corrected or change my mind. But if I get stopped along the way, then I get confused. And I don't remember where I was or how to get back to the end of what I'm saying.
I understand.
And I think sometimes I scare people because of it. Because they think that I'm just so determined or barging ahead and not really a sensitive person, when in truth, I am.
I know. Do you know about dreams?
Well, I have dreams.
But do you know what they mean?
I don't know. Maybe.
I had this dream. I was going to a wedding of these old friends of mine, and part of the wedding sort of event was an enormous pond that they had built. And I was late getting to the wedding, so I got someone to airlift me in, and I dove into the pond. But when I landed in the water, the walls of the pond collapsed, and it drained out, and 1,500 fish died. And everyone was looking for survivors, but I had to leave to take Yeltsin to the Museum of Modern Art because I had to get to the gym. So when I took him into one of the exhibits and turned around to hug him goodbye, he turned to my mother and said, "Wow, look at that Julian Schnabel bridge."
Oh shit, Julian Schnabel.
There was an enormous sterling silver bridge designed by Julian Schnabel. So I walked my mother into the water to say goodbye to her. And this immense 25-story high tidal wave crashed over me and threw me up over the Julian Schnabel bridge. And then I realized I was completely alone in the middle of the ocean, until I realized I had the cell phone tucked into my undies. So I phoned Olympic, which is the name of her dog. "I'll send Chopin over in the car, and then would you take him for a walk and leave the car on 8th Avenue? What do you think of that?
Well, I think things happen suddenly sometimes.
Sometimes people don't want to fall in love because when you love someone, it's too late to set conditions. You can't say, I'll love you if you do this, or I'll love you if you change that, because you can't help yourself. And then you have to live with whoever it is you fall in love with, however they are, and just put up with the difficulties you've made for yourself, because true love has no conditions. That's why it's so awful to fall in love. What would you like to do with me?
I'd like to kiss you.
Kiss you? But I don't even know you.
Well, if you'd kiss me, then you'd know me. Oh. God. God. God damn it! God damn.
God damn it. Women are socialized, so they want a man to be older, take charge, have money, have status, while they play hard to get. And boys are taught to feel stupid, feel inferior, not as smart as girls. Then hormones happen. A boy wants a girl. She plays hard to get. So, a boy learns to talk big, develop a line, take all the risk, hit on women, not take the answer no. Look for younger women. Go for status jobs. How do the women handle men like this? They get more hostile, more aloof. They wear high heels. They diet too much. They hate themselves. They blame the men. The men hate them. It's a vicious circle. It's a vicious circle. So fuck these women. Fuck these women. People think it's hard to be a woman. But it's not easy to be a man. The expectations people have, that a man should be a civilized person. Of course, I think everyone should be civilized, men and women both. But when push comes to shove, say you have some bad people who are invading your country, raping your own wives and daughters. And now we see this happens all the time, all around the world. And then a person wants a man who can defend his home. You can say, yes, it was men who started this. There's no such thing as good guys and bad guys. Only guys. And they kill people. But if you're a man who doesn't want to be a bad guy and you try not to be a bad guy, it doesn't matter. Because even if it is possible to be good, and you are good, when push comes to shove and people need defending, then no one wants a good guy anymore. They want a man who can fuck someone up, who can go to his target like a bullet, burst all bonds, his blood hot, howling at the bark, rage in his heart, screaming with every urge to vomit, the ground moving beneath his feet, the earth alive with pounding, the cry hammering in his heart, like tanked up motors turned loose, with no brakes to hold them. This noxious world. And then when it's over, suddenly, when this impulse isn't called for any longer, a man is expected to put it away. Carry on with life as though he didn't have such impulses, or to know that if he does, he is a despicable person. And so it may be that when a man turns this violence on a woman in her bedroom or in the midst of war, slamming her down, hitting her, he should be esteemed for this, for informing her about what it is that civilization really contains. The impulse to hurt side by side with the gentleness, the use of force as well as tenderness, the presence of coercion and necessity. Because it has just been a luxury for her, really, not to have to act on this impulse or even feel it, not to have to let a man do it for her, so that she can stand aside and deplore it. Whereas in reality, it is an inextricable part of the civilization in which she lives, on which she depends, that provides her a long life, longer usually than her husband, and food and clothes, dining out in restaurants, and going on vacations to the ocean side, so that when a man turns it against her, he is showing her a different sort of civilized behavior, really, that she should know and feel intimately as he does. To know the truth of how it is to live on earth, to know this is part not just of him, but also of her life. Not go through life denying it, pretending it belongs to another, rather knowing it as her own, feeling it as her own, feeling it as a part of life as intense as love, as lovely in its way as kindness. Because to know this pain is to know the whole of life before we die. And not just some pretty piece of it. To know who we are, both of us, together. This is a gift that a man can give a woman. It is your fate to be wedded and mine to be wed.
So that takes us a little more than halfway through this, I must say, riveting and sort of harrowing performance. Charlotte, I'd love to hear some reactions from you. And then as we're sort of getting ready for the rest, if you could give the audience a view of like the balance of material coming from antiquity and sort of some of the new stuff and how you see it sort of interweaving to create that delicate thing called relevance.
I have to say, this is giving me shivers, everybody. This is amazing. It's so incredible to see how the kind of the fragments, the kind of silence that we have before this Greek tragedy is just coming alive with this interpretation. I have to say, there have been some brilliant lines in there, and I know we're just going to go back to how you were talking about before we started, that kind of there are so many important themes that are coming out in this production. It is incredible to see, like, I think there is one of the big core themes I'm seeing just coming out straight away is something that I always have pondered a little bit when you just look at the supplicants by itself. It's like, what would you do if these girls turned up on your doorstep? What would you put yourself in danger to look after them? Would you be welcoming them with open arms? But it's not just about kind of that immigration asylum side of things. It's actually, you know, what would you do as a man standing up for women and advocating for women, or women standing up against men? Is it standing up with sisterhood? What would you do? And it's coming across incredibly well, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I found the debate among the women about men, I mean, was just so sharp and well paced and like timely. And as you said, like filled with like just amazing turns of phrase and turns of argument. I mean, I need to watch it again. I mean, for modern audiences though, like that sequence is not ancient, right? It's very modern. So you're seeing this as a whole, right? What are some of the pieces that are being used to put it together?
Yeah. So in antiquity, it was such a popular myth. So we have it in various different forms. We had a reference to Io early on in the production, and actually there's another Greek tragedy that makes reference to the Danaid story. It's Prometheus Bound, and actually when Io has her big speech in Prometheus Bound about the Io story, she talks about like in the future there will be these women, and kind of predicts makes a prophecy about them. So we kind of have information from that. We also have Pindar. He did some Pythian odes where he discussed kind of the women. His version is slightly different. He has a different number on there. He has 48 women instead of 50. And then you have the mythographers. You have Apollodorus and you have Hyginus, who go into great detail. And I have to say, Apollodorus will kind of go, this person married this person, and this person married this person. So you get a real long list of 50 people, all who married, which is great because you're thinking, oh, but you have no clue who these people are. And then I think what really stands out for me from antiquity is how kind of Latin authors really kind of adopt this version of the story. And because of this, with the supplicants as the only surviving play out of the trilogy or the tetralogy, we don't really hear kind of really about what the people, individuals are thinking, and we don't get that inner monologue as such coming out in the supplicants. It's very much business, get done, let's see if we can get asylum, can we, this is our woe is us kind of situation, help me. But when you get to Ovid, whether you like him or not, writes this wonderful letter in his Heroides, where it's Hypermnestra, who is for this production the Lydia character, writing to Lycinus, who is the Nikos character in this production, and explaining the situation that she's in, what has led up, the actions that have led up to this moment, and kind of her thinking and her inner monologue. And it's a wonderful insight into kind of that torn between sisterhood and family and doing kind of the right thing. And again, back to this question of, are we doing, what would you do if you're in this situation? Would you be a Hypermnestra? Would you stand up against your sisters and kind of fall in love with someone and kind of, spoilers, go off and look after him and let him free? Or would you kind of be and be an Antigone as such, stand up and for what you believe is ethically right, that you shouldn't go and murder someone, or would you just be part of the collective? And I think that really comes out and that really resonates in kind of various versions of antiquity, and it's great that it's been kind of used in this production as well, as that question of what would you do.
Yeah, and that tension really comes through and animates that that central debate. So as we move towards the second half, what are you looking for in sort of the closing of the tale or the next step?
Oh, that's a good one. I have to say, the last monologue we just had, we got one of the fragments in there, which survived, and that's actually from the satyr play, the Amymone. And with that, we have just one line, which is, my duty is to be wedded, mine is to, your duty is to be wedded, mine is to be wed. And I love how we've brought that fragment in. Kind of the reason why it's better to bring it in now is because it's going to set up what happens in the future in the play. But also when it comes in the satyr play, we don't really know what really happened in the satyr play that much. So, but we kind of know that it would have still been in keeping with this idea of forced marriage, and probably would have been involved with one of the Danaids going off and having a relationship with a god, possibly Poseidon, who knows. And so now I'd be looking for that. We're now kind of getting to that stage in the production where we've had the kind of back and forth, the reasons why people should be kind of happy about the marriage, and the reasons why kind of it needs to happen because there's a contract as such. The women clearly not happy about it, but you're getting all those different voices. Some people who just want to get married and want this all to be over. Others who are kind of, I want love. And others who are just like, no, this is just so wrong. Like, we can't be doing this. So the next stage would be the marriage scene, or kind of what happens on the marriage night. And then the punishment, which I have to say, depending which version of the story they go with, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, you get a nice punishment at the end in antiquity, various different versions of them turning up in the underworld, doing refilling vases of water and the water just falling out. So punishment, how it will end, who knows? But that's the beauty of fragmentary theatre. We can really play around with the stories as much as we like.
Thank you for that. And so, you know, from the mouth of Charlotte herself, we're looking forward to wedding and then punishment, which is not the way all people's weekends go, but this is how we're going to wrap up this Wednesday. So to the second half of the Danaids.
When I was a boy, I thought I had it made. My coach said, you could be good. So I had the instincts. I could hit the ball. I could run. My dad played football. And I said to my dad, I don't want to do this. This isn't me. I felt so ashamed. And he said to me, what do you mean? Your friends out there, they're doing it. They like it. Just get out there. Don't be afraid. You can't get hurt. And even if you do get hurt, it doesn't matter. You pick yourself up and get on with it. That's how it is. And what do you care? Because you belong. I never did belong. It wasn't for me. Little League never was for me.
Let's put it here, dear. Over there.
Does it have candles?
No, dear, no. It usually has a little bride and a groom on top. But this time we need 50 little brides and 50 little grooms. So we will have them all around on all the different tiers. I bet you've dreamed about this day. You'll say your vows, eat a beautiful cake, dance in the moonlight, and in more ways than one. And then will come the brilliant light of the sun, and I will graciously awake the bridal couples, enchanting them with song with a choir of youths and maidens. And it'll be like a huge party, like carnival.
I would like candles.
Ah, candles. You want candles? Yes, of course, love. Think nothing of it. You'll have candles if you want them.
We don't want a cake. What are you doing, Olympia, helping with this cake?
Did someone order a cake?
It was delivered to the house.
I thought there were some conversations to be had.
What is going on?
Things are moving awfully fast.
I ordered the cake. Thank you, Eleanor.
Time, dear. I'm just going to get the candles for the cake.
So, you gave in to them, didn't you?
I thought there might be room to strike an accommodation with your cousins.
An accommodation.
In the world I come from, it's not always all or nothing. Men learn to compromise all the time. After all, we have to go on living in the same world together.
So you get up every morning and say, who can I compromise with today? Surely there's a sociopath somewhere who wants to make a deal.
Frankly, I could see why you wouldn't want to accept the proposal of your cousins, 50 grooms for 50 brides in its entirety, but it seemed to me that this young man, Nikos, was not such a bad fellow after all.
They're all the same, just different manners.
And I thought it might be that there could be one or two others like Nikos, and that if one were to find them, there might be some room to negotiate.
To negotiate.
To see whether there might be one or two natural alliances.
I'd like to love the person that I marry.
Yes, we all would, to be sure. And sometimes we do at first. Sometimes it lasts a little bit.
I know people who have loved one another all their lives.
I do too. And yet it's very rare. For the rest of us, we make do.
Well, maybe some of us don't want to be married at all.
I thought that could be an option too. And yet, for some of you, having a family is something you might long for as much as I do. To be close for all your lives to another human being and to the children that you have together, coming through pleasures and pain over the years that bring you closer together, closer to knowing the deepest truth of life, that life is nothing for us but an experience that we share with others. And if we want our experience of life to be deep and passionate, to have a sense of its unfolding over the many years, to be in touch with the whole of it as we grow old, a lifelong marriage, some of us will welcome.
What are you saying?
It seemed to me, you might say to these fellows, look, the deal as a whole, no good, but we'll take 50% of you or 10%?
What?
Of the 50 of you young women, I felt sure there must be some who still wish to be married to these young men. And that was the accommodation I tried to arrange.
Take 50%, take 10%. This is insane. What is this? We'll make some package deal?
Is Nikos a part of this?
And what about Constantine? Is he a part of the deal? Am I a part of the deal or not?
We didn't get that far.
Didn't get that far. How long does it take to get that far? These men think they can do anything.
Not afraid of men, Theona. In fact, I kind of like them.
So?
Well, maybe you think I shouldn't play their game, but I think I'm not a helpless victim. When I put on a short skirt and paint my toenails and dye my hair, I don't think that I'm a twit. I think men know what I'm doing, and they think it's fun, and I think it's fun too. And I think I'm an equal in the game we play. Well, I wouldn't mind some sort of negotiation.
We don't accept your deal. You can tell these men we don't accept it. What we would accept is if these men like, they can come to us one by one and beg us to marry them. Give each one of us time to make up our minds, postpone the wedding day, and let us consider and reconsider. Let us think about it when we are on our own ground, when we are strong and they are weak. Let us come to them one by one and say freely if we want to marry them. Otherwise, there's nothing to be said.
Except
nothing. We reject your offer.
Fiona.
I speak for all of us.
Fiona.
I'm sorry to tell you, what I've been saying is only the accommodation I was trying to work out. In fact, Constantine won't have it either. He speaks for all your cousins. Your cousins will marry you tonight, whether you want to marry them or not. None of you has a choice.
And Nikos? What did Nikos have to say?
He let his brother speak for him.
Oh.
Isn't this just what I said?
Yes. Well, this is why we came to you. Thank God we were lucky enough to come here. Thank God we found you.
I wish, in fact, you'd found someone else. Because I can't protect you. I can't put my home at risk. My home and my family, my nephew, the daughters of my brother. I can't do it. I'm sorry. For me, that was never an option. The wedding will take place tonight. The arrangements have been made.
Who am I supposed to marry then? This is no different than it would be if we were lying in our beds and soldiers came through the door and took whoever it was they wanted. I'm not going to do this.
What else can you do?
What else can you do if your country won't defend you? You flee to another country, and no one there will take care of you. What is left? Nothing, except to take care of yourself. We have no country. We have become our own country now, where we make the laws ourselves.
Right.
Right.
And when these men take us to bed on our wedding night, these men who left us no alternative, these men who forced themselves on us, we will meet force with force, and we will kill them one by one.
What?
Kill them?
Kill them!
I can't kill them. Are you crazy?
You'd kill them if they were soldiers coming through your bedroom door?
Of course I would, but to kill them.
We can't kill them.
What choice did they give you but to stop them the only way they will ever be stopped? All these men understand is force.
But to kill them? At the least, maybe we don't want to kill them all.
Maybe some of them are good.
One of them are good.
How can you say that?
Here's how you can tell. None of them objected to Constantine. Not one of them stood up against him and said, "No, Constantine, let's take this deal, or at least let's negotiate. Let's talk to these sisters and see if one or two of them wants to marry us, and let the rest go free. Let those go free who don't want to marry. Take the risk that some of us will be rejected." No. No one stood up against him. All his brothers are his silent partners. Would you want to live with someone who just gives in like this? Would you ever feel safe with a person as weak as this?
No.
They have all gone along with this. They have made their decision. The only question is, will you defend yourself, and will you defend your sisters?
Lydia,
Lydia?
Yes.
Olympia?
Yes.
We have a pact then. Not one groom will live through his wedding night. Not one. Are we agreed?
Come, let me help you all get dressed. We have a real night ahead of us.
I had a thought, dear, however scary, about that night, the bugs in the dirt. Why were you digging? What did you bury before those hands pulled me from the earth? I will not ask you where you came from. I will not ask, and neither should you. Honey, just put your sweet lips on my lips. We should just kiss like real people do.
Twilight had just settled on the earth. It was the last part of day and the first of night. We daughters of Inachus are escorted beneath the roof of great Pelasgus, and our husband's father himself receives the armed brides of his sons. On every side shine bright the lamps girt round with gold. Unholy incense is scattered on unwilling altar fires. The crowd cry, Hymen, Hymenaeus. The god shuns their cry. Jove's very consort has withdrawn from the city of her choice. Then, look you, confused with wine, they come in rout amidst the cries of their companions. With fresh flowers in their dripping locks, all joyously they burst into the bridal chambers. Bridal chambers, their own tombs. And with their bodies press the couches that deserve to be funeral beds.
I know that look, dear, eyes always seeking. Was there in someone that dug long ago? So I will not ask you why you were creeping. In some sad way I already know.
And now, heavy with food and wine, they lay in sleep, and deep repose had settled on Argos, free from care. When round about me I seemed to hear the groans of dying men. Nay, I heard indeed, and what I feared was true. My blood retreated, warmth left my body and soul, and on my newly wedded couch all chill I lay. As the gentle zephyr sets a-quiver the slender stalk of grain, as wintry breezes shake the poplar leaves, even thus, yea, even more did I tremble. Yourself lay quiet. The wine I had given you was the wine of sleep.
I could not ask you where you came from. I could not ask, and neither could you.
Thought of my violent father's mandate struck away my fear. I rise and clutch with trembling hand the steel. I will not tell you aught untrue. Thrice did my hand raise high the piercing blade, and thrice, having basely raised it, fell again. I brought it to your throat. Let me confess to you the truth. I brought my father's weapon to your throat. But fear and tenderness kept me from daring the cruel stroke, and my chaste right hand refused the task enjoined. Rending the purple robes I wore, rending my hair, I spoke with scant sounds such words as these. a cruel father, Hypermnestra thine. Perform thy sire's command. Let thy husband there go join his brethren. A woman am I, and a maid, gentle in nature and in years. My tender hands ill suit fierce weapons. But come, while he lies there, do like as the brave sisters. It well may be that all have slain their husbands. Yet had this hand power to deal out murder at all, it would be bloody with the death of its own mistress. They have deserved this end for seizing on their uncle's realms. We, helpless band, must wander in exile with our aged, helpless sire. Yet, suppose our husbands have deserved to die. What have we done ourselves? What crime have I committed that I must not be free from guilt? What have swords to do with me? What has a girl to do with the weapons of war? More suited to my hands are the distaff and the wool. Thus I to myself, and while I utter my complaint, my tears follow forth the words that start them, and from my eyes fall down upon your body. While you grope for my embrace and toss your slumberous arms, your hand is almost wounded by my blade. And now fear of my father seized on me, and of my father's minions, and of the light of dawn. I drove away your sleep with these words of mine. Rise up, away, oh, child of Belus, the one brother left of so many, but now alive. This night, unless you haste, will be forever night to you. In terror you arise, all sleep's dullness flies away. You behold the strenuous weapon in my timorous hand. You ask the cause. While night permits, I answer, fly! While the dark night permits, you fly, and I remain. Danaus counted o'er his sons and all that lay there slain. You alone lack to make the crime complete. He bears ill the loss of a single kinsman's death, and complains that too little blood was shed. I am seized by the hair, and dragged from my father's feet. Such reward my love for duty won, and thrust in jail.
Hypermnestra sends this letter to the one brother left of so many, but now alive. The rest of the company lie dead by the crime of their brides. Kept close in the palace am I, bound with heavy chains. And the cause of my punishment is that I was faithful. Because my hand shrank from driving into your throat the steel, I am charged with crime. I should be praised. Had I but dared the deed, better be charged with crime than thus to have pleased my sire. I feel no regret at having hands free from the shedding of blood. My father may burn me with the flame I would not violate, and hold to my face the torches that shone at my marriage rites, or he may lay to my throat the sword he falsely gave me, so that I, the wife, may die the death my husband did not die. Yet he will not bring my dying kips to say, I repent me. She is not faithful who regrets her faith. Let repentance for crime come to Danaus and my cruel sisters. This is the wanted event that follows on wicked deeds. My heart is struck with fear at remembrance of that night profaned with blood, and sudden trembling fetters the bones of my right hand. She you think capable of having compassed her husband's death, fears even to write of murder done by hands not her own.
We all agreed what we were going to do.
I love him.
You love him?
I'm sorry, Theona. I couldn't help myself.
You go behind our backs, you break your promise, you betray your sisters, and you're sorry? In any civilized society, you would be put on trial and hanged probably, or electrocuted.
Now, let's just stop where we are.
You're not finished here.
Let's just slow things down. Everyone deserves a fair trial, after all.
Oh, right, okay. We'll put Lydia on trial and we'll be the jury.
You'll be the jury.
And I will be the judge.
The judge?
You?
Yes. Who else? You want to put it in the hands of some judge chosen by the business associates of your brother? I don't think so. I will be the judge. Is that okay with you?
Yes. Good. I agree to that.
All right then. Betrayal is the charge. What Lydia did in any other country would be treason.
I love him. I have nothing more to say. If we live in a world where it is not possible to love another person, I don't want to live.
All this talk of love. In the real world, if there is no justice, there can be no love. Because there cannot be no love that is not freely offered. And it cannot be free unless every person has equal standing. First comes justice, and if there is no justice, then those who are being taken advantage of have every right to take their oppressors, to take those who stand in their way and drive them across the fields like frightened horses, to set fire to their houses, to ruin everything that comes to hand, to hurl their corpses into wells where once there were houses, to leave rubble, smoldering wood piles, to leave shattered stones and empty sheets and silence. No living thing, no bird, no animal, no dogs, no children, not one stone left standing on another, rather a wilderness of stones. And see, finally, then, a lesson has been learned. Because there are times when this is justified. There are times, though you may not like it, when this is all human beings may rightly do. And to shrink from it is to be less than human.
You know, everything you say may be right, Fiona. But I have to ask myself, if it is, then why don't I feel good about it? I have to somehow go on my gut instincts, because sometimes you can convince yourself in your mind about the rightness of a thing, and you try to find fault with your reasoning, but you can't, because no matter how you turn it over in your mind, it comes out right. And so you think, I know it's right, but I don't think it is, or I think it's right, but I know it isn't. And you could end up thinking you're just a moron. Or some sort of deficient sort of thing. But really, there are some things when you want to know the truth of them, you have to use not just your mind or even your mind and feelings, but your neurons or your cells or whatever to make some decisions, because they are too complicated. They need to be considered in some larger way. And in the largest way of all, I know I have to go with my whole being when it says I love him and he loves me. And nothing else matters. Even if other things do matter, even quite a lot. Even if I'm doing this in the midst of everyone getting killed, I can't help myself. And I don't think I should. Probably this is how some people end up marrying Nazis. But I can't help it.
You should. You should.
I couldn't. Lydia, if I had known it was okay to do what you did, I might have loved someone too. I was just, I know everyone says this, but the truth is I was just following orders in a way. I should kill myself probably now that I see the person that I am.
That's enough now. That's enough. I'm ready with my verdict. This is what I have to say. You did a dreadful thing, you women, when you killed these men. What could be worse than to take another's life? And yet, you came to us, to my family and to me, to help you, and we failed you. We share some of the blame with you. What else could you have done? You women made your own laws because you had no others to protect you. This was your social contract. And Lydia, in your betrayal of your pact, imperiled all of you. I understand what you're saying, and yet you can't condemn your sister. No matter what, she chose love. She reached out. She found another person, and she embraced him. She couldn't know when she did whether all those hopes of her childhood for true love and tenderness, for soulmate, for all her life were destined for delusion. Still, she reached out. And if we cannot embrace another, what hope do we have of life? What hope is there to survive at all? This is why love trumps all. Love is the highest law. It can be bound by no other. Love of another human being, woman or man, it cannot be wrong. Does this mean that every woman must get married? Not at all. A woman might want another woman. Sometimes a man prefers a man. But to love, this cannot be wrong. So Lydia, she cannot be condemned. And that is the end of it. And as for you, there will be no punishment for you either. Ooh. As for you, there will be no punishment for you either. Even though you may have done wrong, there will be no justice. For the sake of healing, for life to go on, there will be no justice. Now, Piero, it will be your job to keep all this out of the hands of courts and judges. That much you can do. And now you girls alone in the world, what will you do? I like a strong woman. I like a woman who sticks with her sister. You'll see. One day, you'll find a good man. Or not. A woman doesn't always need a man. I myself, I no longer need a man. Except, of course, my good son, Piero, who stays with me forever, who takes good care of me. For we all live together and come to embrace the splendid variety of life on earth, good and bad, sweet and sour. Take it for what it is. the glory of life. This is why at weddings everybody cries out of happiness and sorrow, regret and hope combined. Because in the end, of all human qualities, the greatest is sympathy. For clouds even.
Or snow.
For meadows, for banks of ditches.
For turf bogs, for rotten wood, for wet ravines, silk stockings, buttons.
Bird's nest, hummingbirds.
Prisms.
Jasmine.
Orange flower, water lessons for the flute.
Quill pen.
A red umbrella.
Some faded thing.
Handkerchiefs made of lawn.
Of cambric.
Of Irish linen.
Of Chinese silk.
Of dog's blood.
The dung beetle.
Goat dung.
A mouse cut in two.
In spring, the dawn. In summer, the nights. In autumn, the evenings.
In winter, the early mornings, the burning firewood, piles of ashes, the ground white with frost,
Spring water welling up.
the hum of the insects, the human voice.
Piano virtuosos. Orchestras.
The pear tree.
The sunlight you see in water as you pour it from a pitcher into a bowl.
The earth
The rain.
itself.
When you fall in love.
What choice do you have?
I could not ask you where you came from. I could not ask you, neither could you. Honey, just put your sweet lips on my lips. We should just kiss like real people do.
So we've had about 52 episodes of Reading Greek Tragedy online since the beginning. I've been surprised, I've been emotional. This one really gets me hard. Perhaps it's where we are politically now in our world, but this was just moving, phenomenal. We usually spend about 90 minutes with this. We're gonna take a little longer today, get everyone involved. Charlotte, I'm gonna start with you. What did this do for you? And so as someone who works in this material, how does it breathe new life in it for you in a surprising way?
I have to say, I'm very moved. I am very, very moved at this beautiful adaptation. And it really, for me, brings back that timeless quality that comes with Greek tragedy and how it can talk to everyone. And you were so right, Joel, about kind of where we are politically, where we are in the world. It's that kind of unwavering sense of humanity that comes through with Greek theatre. And because we don't get to do this kind of production many times, people don't know it. Every time I see it, it always brings out something different, it's something new, and it talks to you no matter what time period you're in, what you're going through. I feel that there is something that everyone can relate to with this myth and Greek tragedy. So I am absolutely honoured to have witnessed what we've just witnessed. I have to say congratulations, everyone.
Right, and to Charlotte, I think you get to the core of what I think Tabatha and crew has accomplished here, and that, we think about Greek tragedy as, too often as like masks and myths, but it's really about navigating the space between stories we tell and the lives we live. And part of what this performance really got is taking the story having a multivocality in it, like all those different voices, the different ideas, and coming to an awkward resolution. That last bit at the end, just thinking about like what's precious in life. It reminded me of that fragment by Praxilla, right? Where she talks about the things that I'll miss. And I don't know if that's where we're going there, but really just, I mean, astounding. I'll keep saying like adjectives, so I want Tabatha to come in a bit, to maybe tether me down a bit. And Tabatha, so like Paul said you were doing this performance. I saw the script like this morning. I didn't have time to read it, so I had no idea what was going on. This is, I just want to say thank you. This is really an amazing thing you put together. Can you tell us a little bit about like where it's coming from, how the project started, what your process was like? I know I said we're going to talk shortly, but just what do you want us to know about this work?
Ooh, okay. All right. How quick can I make this? Yeah, I kind of hid the script from you guys. Sorry about that, because I knew it was going to be a little bit long, but I knew it was going to be worth it. Yeah. So this was actually adapted from a couple different things, the Suppliants from Aeschylus. Then we have Charles Mee's Big Love, which is a beautiful play. That's really what got this kind of going for me, because I knew that Charles Mee's work is basically, his whole remaking project is reinterpreting Greek plays. And that one in particular stuck with me, and I knew I wanted to do something with that. And then there was the fragments. So I hope I don't mispronounce this. Amymone? Yeah, that one. And then the extant fragment of the Danaids. I think, and then letter 14 of the Heroides by Ovid. So yeah, I just basically wanted to get everybody's, like the biggest historical adaptions and interpretations of the story of the Danaids together, because, you know, we don't have the trilogy by Aeschylus. We only have a couple pieces. And so I wanted to see how, I guess, how people continued the story and came to their own conclusions. And the big thing for me, Constantine, who is not here, I wish he were here to talk to you guys. He is the worst character. He is so wrong, but he's so right. And I think that's everybody in the play. And the fact that like humanity is so complicated. We do terrible things that are completely justified. And that's just, the world is a difficult place to live in. I don't know if anybody's seen The Good Place, but that's a fantastic show to watch after watching this. But the whole conceit is that it's so hard to get into the good place, because, like, you know, life itself changes and gets more difficult, and it becomes harder to be a good person. And like, what does it even mean to be a good person? Does it mean to deny yourself? Does it mean to let other people walk all over you? Does it mean to stand up for yourself? What do you have to do to stand up for yourself? And does that make you dirty? And that's why I think that ending. So there are a lot of different endings that we have in antiquity. But in one of the original myths, Aphrodite comes down, judges the situation, and says, I condemn no one. I don't condemn you, Lydia, for Hypermnestra for loving and doing what you did. And in this version, nobody was in Tartarus yet. I kind of wanted to offer, you know, cleansing for all. It's holy. It's kind of like a holy baptism. The fact that Aphrodite was like, and Eleanor Aphrodite was like, I don't condemn you. You're okay. What you did was justified. What you did was justified. What you did was justified. And now there needs to be no justice. It needs to stop here. And I think that was beautiful. That's a huge driver and why I wanted to do this.
I mean, the sort of egalitarian approach to our common evil, I think came out best with the Constantine character. Not best, but really well, where, you know, like, all right, he's got this like sort of every man's menace going on, then he's a men's rights activist, and like he's horrifying, right? And just throughout the play, I think you did a really good job of balancing sort of like these different aspects we all inhabit. So I want to hear. So I know we're late, but it's fine. I want to hear from the actors. I'm just going to call you as I see you on the screen. If you can change your names to your actual names, if not, that's okay. So James Jelkin first. You do a great job. Perhaps I like it because we both have long hair, but you do a great job of seeming sort of like so like approachable and kind, but then there's this like, oh, I'm the good guy. Then at the end, you're not. What did this performance mean to you?
I love exactly what Tabatha was talking about is the words. I mostly spoke with Charles Mee's words, are just stupidly relevant to the experiences that I have and see around me all the time. And I love how, like in Greek mythology, it's just these big ideas get personified and then run headfirst into each other. And rarely do you get to have such a pure kind of bald experience in like walking around. And so doing this show, it feels like taking things that I feel normally and letting them able to just turn up to 1,000 and see what happens. And I think that's really why we keep reading these plays, is because that's what they are. They're just like our emotional primary colors or our cultural primary colors fighting with each other to the death. And it's spectacular.
I mean, just that you just spoke in taglines there in ways like, right, stupidly relevant, emotional primary colors. Just, I mean, you brought beautiful insight to the part. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. It was such an incredible, wonderful thing to be able to do for people. So thank you.
Lily Ling. So Lily, we've had you on this small screen before. I don't think we've asked such a range from you. It was amazing. How do you keep all that contained in this space of the small screen? And what was this role like for you?
Honestly, I actually stood the whole time, which Tabatha was kind of mad at me at first. Standing, and I'm like, I honestly feel like she has so much, Fiona has so much like in her, and like, so I just kind of I don't know, I just felt for her a lot and wanted to do the best I could to portray like what she was feeling. I don't know.
It was splendid. I didn't know you were standing, but I think it seemed like it was a good way to sort of channel that energy, because it was really like it was there.
Yeah, I couldn't sit and be like so upset.
Well, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you so much, Joel.
Jessica Orelus. I think I got that right. I think this is your first time with us, right?
This is, yes.
And you had the challenge of being the sweetness to Lily's fire. What was this role like for you?
I think, yes, I think it's exactly that. I think something that's been so wonderful about this process and working with Tabatha and working and doing this story, if anything, this is a very interesting story to have be the first one. It's very intense. It takes you all around. But one of the wonderful things about this process was being one of the sisters and kind of seeing the different ways in which we're all interacting with the circumstances that we've been given and the different tools that we think are available to us. And I think with Olympia's sweetness, there's a little part of her, like a little naivete, that hopes and believes that, you know, if she acts in the right ways, if she is able to be a peacemaker in some ways, that perhaps there'll be little rewards to her. She has like that monologue where she talks about how wearing short skirts and things like that, she's aware of what she's doing, but men are too. And for her, she feels like that gives her a little bit of agency and a little bit of power in a way that, you know, Fiona doesn't necessarily agree with. So it's interesting to see all of their different ways of dealing with this kind of come to bat with each other throughout.
And I mean, you know, where you had a stillness about you that contrasted so well with Lily's sort of frantic energy. I would believe you guys had practiced this 1,000 times. The way you work off each other. And so I want to add to the trio, of course, Toree, Alexandre. I think this is your first time on the show too. Where'd you go? There you are. What's it like for you working in this environment with this material?
Oh, it's been an absolute delight. I love heightened speech, heightened text. There's something about delving into it and completely stripping away all of the maybe put on notions of what it needs to sound like or feel like, and realizing that it's just human emotion, humans, you know, experiencing life, and it's universal. I believe a couple of people said that, universal of time and place, just timeless. And I love the story that it's telling of you know, love being able to be simple, especially the ending of, you know, the things that maybe we take for granted, but they are at the base of it all and the height of it all. Like it's all, we are love. So it's I love processes like these as well, processes where I'm meeting, you know, all of these wonderful creative people, and we're able to come together. And our rehearsals, you know, merging everybody's schedules is always like a task at hand. And I don't know, just the instant connection, even through Zoom, that's how powerful these, you know, these stories are, these characters, how real and honest they are, that we're able to, you know, connect by our computers and rely on the technical.
No, I thank you so much. As you can tell, I'm lost for words a bit by how amazing this was. So thank you, and I hope we see you again. Last among the actors, I think Paul Hurley. We definitely had you here before, but today you had that sort of mixture of like slick car salesman and politician. What was that like?
You know, a lot of it was just that conflict, you know, within oneself of wanting to do the right thing, and then, you know, one's own self-preservation, like their own ego that gets in the way. And I think, like you just mentioned, that's something we're seeing all the time in the political stage, in the world right now. And it's, you know, it's that constant back and forth of, I imagine most politicians get into it for the right reasons, wanting to do something, and then there's a system you have to work within, and then it's eventually, you know, this guy at the end of this story throws up his hands and says, sorry, can't do it, I'm out.
And I think what the challenge for a character like yours is to believe that you got into it for good reasons, right? Like you're not like bamboozling them from the get-go. But it was really, like, honestly, from the beginning, like you threaded the needle there, and it really helped balance things out. So thank you for joining us again. To our other Paul, the man with the plan and the vision, Paul Omani, you want to show your face and tell us what's in store for the next few weeks?
Sure thing. Hi, Joel. And I just want to add, again, just a massive thank you to Tabatha and the entire team, because that was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm just so pleased that this is now part of the series, because it was just a phenomenal event. So thank you very, very much. I'm just here to say very quickly that we will be back in 2 weeks' time when we will be staging a version of Euripides' Ion, and then that's on the 18th of May. And then on the 1st of June will be the final episode in the current series of Reading Greek Tragedy Online, and that will be Prometheus. And we hope that we will be returning in the fall. We'll keep you posted on all of that. I also wanted to remind you that there are some competitions that are ongoing at the moment. So we have Playing Oedipus, which is going on in Italy and is open to various students and groups in Italy. And we have Playing Dionysus, which is open to students who are at high school or at the university level in North America. We are extending the deadline for that competition. So you now have until October the 31st, until Halloween, to create your own spooky version of the Bacchae. And it's open to anyone, as I said, who's a student. So if you happen to be graduating this summer and you've been working on one already, that's totally fine. You can still enter, and there are prizes to be won, cash prizes, courtesy of the SCS and their Ancient Worlds Modern Communities fund. So yes, that's what we've got going on at the moment. Please come back in a couple of weeks and watch more. And thank you again, Tabatha, everyone. And thank you, Joel, for always just being so awesome.
Well, I get the inspiration from all of you. Before closing, some thank yous. Zack Dictakis couldn't be here, but he did the cinematography and that bit in the middle of the play. Again, major appreciation to Tabatha Gayle for adapting this, for directing this. Charlotte, Parkyn, Lottie, thank you for being with us again. You are so awesome at this. We should have you every season. That's what we're calling it now. To Ali Marbury for producing this and making it possible. John Coley for his amazing images that Ali turns into posters. For all the people whose names I'm forgetting, including Tamieka Chavis, who had to leave early and did a great job as Eleanor. I appreciate you all deeply and thank you for this afternoon. Everyone stay safe. In 3 weeks time, 2 weeks time, we'll be back together for Euripides Ion or Eon if you're on the other side of the Atlantic for me. Until then, stay safe.